Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Strand Tennis Center podcast, filled with tips, advice, tennis, not tennis, just life advice too, whatever you need. Like it on YouTube, share it on the podcast as well. Thank you. No practice today, right, Coach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get a cord.
I know. I can't get a cord. I know. That's a thing there. All right. Hey everybody. Santi, welcome to the Strand Tennis Center podcast, everybody. This is part of our series for the boys' high school team locally. We are going to interview as many coaches as we can just to get a flavor of the season, what is going on. Coach Vinnie from Summit Tennis, Summit High School. He coaches the the girls, and the boys' teams. Coach, thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
That's awesome. So, little history. How many years have you coached each team?
I have to go back and check the record book, but I think I'd probably say 12 years with the girls, and then maybe about 9 years with the boys. But before I became varsity, I was JV coach with both.
Okay. Couple of general questions. Pros and cons to both. Differences that you can tell me, just general things between the girls and the boys?
Having 3 daughters myself and coaching girls pretty much all my life, other than when I first started here at Summit, the girls seem to, and not that they don't, obviously they do care about winning and losing, but they're very quick to forget about a loss. They move on quickly, which is great because then they can move on to the next event. With the boys, they'll tell you about the point they lost in the deuce game. They'll say when it was 5-4, they should have won that set. There's no way that kid should have beat me. I'm better than him. And they just let it fester a little bit before they got to start thinking, okay, we got a match tomorrow. Let's forget about what happened today.
So the girls have a shorter memory, huh? It's an interesting thing because we coach a lot of them here both. And I guess we haven't seen enough full matches. But I guess you're right because, looking back, and we coach some of the same players that are there, and a couple of the boys will fester. They will. They'll talk about something. They can't believe they lost to this person and all those things. Interesting observation. How's the season looking so far? How did your tryouts go? Just your thoughts on the overall look of the team.
Great. We have a lot of returning sophomores and juniors. We had we have some promising freshmen that came in. Challenge matches went well. I'm not going to say they went according to expected because you never really can say this is what I expect was going to happen. But I was very pleased with some of the singles players, their talent. Obviously, some have worked here. I guess other coaches, whatever, but they've definitely improved. And I think I've got some 3 strong singles players with Jonah, you, and Edward. Doubles still remain to be seen. We still have 4 scrimmages next week. And as you know, just because you can play singles doesn't mean you can play doubles. And I want to see them in action against a competitiveness other than playing against each other.
So I've spoke to a couple of coaches. I guess doubles is more about a feel. It's not where you finished out in the challenge list. It's how they match up together as teammates.
I'm not going to say you have to love the guy you're with, but you got to obviously be compatible on the court. I mean, I look for that camaraderie. I look for that, like, are they smacking hands or clapping rackets? Yeah. Are they encouraging each other? Even to the point of saying, it's 40-30. Again, hey, guys, or whatever his name would be or her name, let's take this game. We got to take this game. Versus, we played the point, and now it's back to deuce. Or we played the point, we won the game. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking for that. And obviously with doubles, can you volley? Can you get your first serve in? How consistent? You only have to be responsible for half the court normally. So it's a little different game.
How does your challenge system work? Everybody's always interested in how do you usually run the format?
Well, I usually, a lot of people say, well, you just must take it from last year and see how they ended up last year and then start from there. I kind of disagree just because you got older. My premise is just because you got older doesn't mean you got better. How hard did, you work? Give you a quick story. I know when my oldest daughter, who's 42, went in as I'm not going to say the school, but went in as a freshman.
This is high school or college?
High school. She was clearly better, I'm going to say, than, let's say, 3/4 of the varsity team, and she worked hard. She did tournaments. She did lessons. She did, what I would expect her to do. But the bottom line is she was a freshman, and, freshmen play JV. Well, I don't know if that is still the same in a lot of schools, but I know, I've heard parents say to me at times, hey, listen, how did that freshman get into the starting lineup when, my son's a junior? Well, and then it's very clear. I would definitely show them, well, here's who they lost to, here's who they beat, here are the scores. If I lose to you 6-0, it's kind of tough for me to say to you, listen, you should see me play doubles. If it's 6-4, 7-5, and, I'm a better volleyer than you, and I like coming to the net, and you just like staying behind the baseline, you just happen to be more consistent that day, well, then, maybe we got to see how each other play. So, when it comes to challenges for doubles, I should say, when it comes to challenge for singles, it's real simple. 2 out of 3, and you have a right to challenge twice. You don't have to. But once you lose that second time, you can't go and say, well, now I want to challenge number 1. I didn't get by number 2.
Okay.
And doubles is, at this point, they say you only need 1 set, but it's how you play.
Okay. I think it's great. It's refreshing that there's no politics, right? Because like you've said, a lot of schools, there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of people that, they played number 1 last year and they feel like they should play. There's a great story at Georgia, Jay Berger. Remember Jay Berger years ago? He got to the quarters of the U.S. Open, blah, blah, blah. And the head coach, I forget the head coach of Georgia, he gets to the quarters of the U.S. Open, and he's got to go challenge to play number 1 at Georgia because he was still an amateur. And the coach was like, I don't know, you got to beat the number 1. You got to beat to be the number 1 guy. And he lost. He played 2 the first 2 weeks, and he just got to the quarters of the U.S. Open. So it's great to hear that you're only as good as really your last season or your beginning of your challenges, which is great to hear. How is the makeup? Before I get, Coach, we got tons of questions from parents and things. How do you kind of deal with different personalities? I mean, every coach has got to deal differently. Do you find yourself having to wear many hats with different personalities out there?
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to Sante a little bit. Having 40 years of teaching experience in a high school, obviously I've dealt with a lot of students, and having coached, I basically ran a PAL program in Berkeley Heights for many years. So I mean, I was coaching for a long time before I came into Summit. I really think that it's positive feedback. Number 1. I mean, I would never look at it. I don't want to tell you what you did wrong. I don't want them ever to know that that, and they know this up front. I'll never be mad at you. I may be mad at what you're doing and how you're playing, but I'm not mad at you as a person.
Okay.
If I'm giving you feedback like, listen, you hit the ball 3 times into the net, what do you think you should do differently? I may mix a little sense of humor into it. I mean, obviously they know what I'm talking about. So, there's a lot of, I'm going to say, I think there's a lot of psychology that goes into being a good coach in relating to kids. Hopefully I have some of that.
And we've always talked about this on the podcast. Sometimes it's more important in how you lead than how you coach specifically, tactically sometimes. Because dealing with emotions is, you can paint it with any brush. It doesn't matter whether it's tennis, volleyball, swimming, basketball. You have to understand how to deal with the athlete and help them make them feel confident at the right time. Because if they just don't feel confident, it doesn't matter what you say. You could be the greatest tennis coach in the world, but if they don't trust your voice, it's going to be trouble. Let me get through. Good. You got.
Yeah, I was just going to say, between our coaching staff is Coach O'Regan, Coach James, myself, I have to say that we really believe in the comprehensive high school kid. I mean, tennis is important. Don't get me wrong. Sport is important, but when that kid comes to practice, you don't know what he went through that day.
Yeah.
You don't know what she went through that day. Did they fail a test? Did they not get into the college of their choice? There's all kinds of emotional things that could go on during the day.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about them winning a tennis match and not knowing or trying to think about, well, maybe something is going on other than it's the sport, you got to deal with that.
Yeah, I found that a lot of the kids we work with here, they appreciated tennis because it kept them kind of centered and kept them a little bit happier. They get away from school. They feel like there's something we can do. We have camaraderie. There's some positive stuff, I guess. Yeah, and you don't want to be too hard on the kid, especially if they're trying to get away from or just feel better about themselves in a way. You still want them to work hard and challenge themselves, but a lot of them felt like tennis was a great way to deal with the stress of just school and trying to get into all these schools and all the pressures in the area. And there's just general pressures to achieve these things. So tennis is a great outlet.
I agree.
So let me go through some of these questions,
Sure.
Coach. Let's see. How do you teach students to manage their mental part of the game? I think we went through that to keep their head in the match. I'd love to hear your thoughts on 1 to 3 year goals of the program. What potential resource gaps do you need to achieve those goals? Are there any resources that you think you could use? Any kind of help or funds or whatever you may think?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have the Summit Tennis Association as well as the Summit Music Boosters, Summit Athletic Boosters. We were talking about bands before with Santos.
Hey,
so.
listen. Hey, I love music too, boys. We'll do another podcast on that.
No, the Summit Athletic Boosters are fantastic. They support us just about in every way possible. Even in, our community, I mean, we have 8 tennis courts available to our high school. I mean, you know how many schools come to us and going like, "What? These are your courts?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
true.
"Well, they're not ours. This is the community courts, but from 3 to 5 every day, and for our matches, the association, the community allows us to use these courts, which is fantastic. I would tell you that just to give you the partnership, you're going to see brand new windscreens going up at those courts. Heavy duty, high level windscreen, and again, it was the Summit Tennis Association, the Summit Boosters, and the township that have all kind of chipped in. So
Yeah, the courts are really nice, and they run a great. Luckily, we're fortunate to work with the middle school program that they have. It's great because they get the kids involved because there's no official middle school team, but the association does a great job to get the kids in the system early. It feeds to the high school
Absolutely.
and makes them better players, and they're ready to play. It's great. It's a great thing that they do after school in the springtime. Those kids then play kind of or mock matches against Newark Academy and Kent Place and all those teams. It's great practice for them, and it's a great experience. So, yeah, they do an incredible job. What the first part of the thing, 1 to 3 year goals, you have any goal sets for the kids yearly and kind of a long-term in regards to the team?
Well, with everyone, you'd like to see them improve. You want to see, and you want to ask them, okay, where do you think? And how many times you'll see a player come back the following year and say, "Hey, coach, I really worked on my volleying. Hey, coach, I can now serve and volley. I never used to be able to do that before." Or, "Hey, listen, I don't like to stay behind the baseline now all day long. Steve or Chris or somebody has worked with me. I can follow a shot in. I know kind of how to win a point, the strategy behind it." So, you love to see that individual player. As far as the program goes, it's easy to say, "Oh, we'd love to win a county championship." The boys won a county championship last year. I'm not going to say that was a 3-year goal.
Correct.
We'd love to win a group championship, which we've won many, many groups. Be nice to win a state title. But I'm not going to say in 3 years I want to win a state title no matter what. It's the development of the program. I think one of the most important keys that I like is just, did I keep a racket in that kid's hands? He started as a freshman. He's now a senior, and he's still playing, whether it's varsity, JV, or whatever. He's still playing tennis, so he must be doing something right.
I think the challenge, and that you've done a great job with a high school team, you got support, but you're a public school, and in this area, tennis is very different. It's not necessarily a team sport, so they play with their private coaches. They have private schools they could go to if they want because they could be recruited individually. So it's a little bit harder, and it's great that you've been so successful dealing with, say, the Del Bartons in the area, all these private schools that can recruit and can, kind of cherry pick some of the kids that they want. So, no, it's been very successful public school-wise. I mean, it's been great to see, and the team is watching that practice and watching a lot of the kids play. It's a solid team up and down. I mean, I don't see, and I've watched a lot of teams. It's I'd see you guys again like last year, top 10 in the state and playing against those high level teams. Newark Academy will be up there, like Del Barton, all those top 3 teams will all struggle with because they got some crazy players on those teams. So I think Del Barton last year, I know Academy's last year was like 1 in the nation. It was crazy, but very solid team. Technique-wise, how much time do you have to work on technical things? This is always a hard part. It's hard because you're only practicing with them for a week, and then you're right into play.
Right. Well, I think that one thing I do for sure is I try and find out who their private coach is. Okay, because if they're making varsity, they're not going to tell me, well, they've never been coached. I don't care if it's a clinic. I don't care if it's a number of clinics, but many of them, I'm going to say 99% have some type of private coach. I like to at least be in contact with them and say, okay, what do you think of so-and-so? What have you been working on with them? Just to kind of get the feedback a little bit. Of course, most coaches are going to be honest and tell me, listen, this is where I think, so and so is. Hopefully they'll keep developing. How that kind of plays out in what you just said is, okay, they come to me, let's just take the girls. We have 2 weeks in August, and then we start the season. So am I going to say, well, listen, your serve doesn't have enough spin on it. Let's work on changing your serve. I mean, that's not going to happen. And I don't think any coach, you might want to tweak a little something, as far as, hey, how are we going to create a little bit more movement? I mean, let's talk about the strategy of a point, what you're doing. As far as actually changing you're not going to change technique. I may reinforce it. I mean, okay, so what are you working on? What have you been working on? Because most coaches that worked with my daughters would say it's going to be at least 6 weeks to maybe 2 months before what I'm teaching them, I'd like to see them do in a tournament. I don't want, just because I told them we're now going to use this kind of forehand, go out next week and play it in a tournament and see what happens. You know what would happen, So
you don't believe how many calls we get August 7th. And then the daughter hasn't played all summer, and they want to take 7 lessons in a row, and you have to be honest with them and say, listen, we'll do our best, but we can't.
Right.
It's not like this. It's not like an In-N-Out burger of tennis. You can't get in there, get your sandwich, and be fine. You're going to have to. Tennis is that kind of sport, as you know. You can play basketball and be a defensive specialist and get rebounds and do some great things, but in tennis, you really have to do everything, and you can't kind of, hopefully, cram and be able to play a singles match. It's just too difficult.
And most parents, like I said, just how you get that call, I'll get the call and say, well, what do you think is a good plan? Let's just say they just completed their freshman year, the girls. And what do you think is a good plan for my daughter so she can make varsity? Okay, so, I'm not making any promises. I'll say, okay, well, first of all, find a coach that you really feel is not going to say to your daughter, what do you want to work on? The coach should have a plan for your daughter, and the two of them should have that work together. After that plan, don't just walk away and then say, okay, I'll be back next week, because that ain't going to happen either. I said, so now you got to be able to say, okay, well, is there 2 clinics I'm going to do? Is there maybe some empty court time during that week that I could hit with so and so? I says, and then now this UTR, which is great, has come in. Start playing matches. So that you're now getting that competitiveness that, okay, I just beat Anna. Now I got to go see how I do against this young lady or whatever. And I think that's what it takes now. It's not just I just took a lesson, so therefore I'm ready.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we tell the girls now because they have August practice, right? Play UTRs every weekend. Play a tournament. I don't care where you play it. It's got to be in their system. They've got to be used to it and used to play. On to the next. Discipline-wise, how do you deal with, say, twofold, bad attitude and a kid, what's your rule? Misses practice, such and such. What kind of discipline do you put into a kid just not being a teammate, so to speak, on any level?
I'm old school. I mean, that's just me, I mean, I'm not saying any coach should be giving way to things like that. I know because our lacrosse program is so strong in Summit and has been obviously successful year after year after year, I might even comment to it, oh, would you tell the lacrosse coach that you had a dentist appointment today? I mean, I'm just curious. Would you do that? And of course, why? Because you probably wouldn't be in the lineup tomorrow, okay? So right from the beginning, we lay it down. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. I don't want to hear you told this captain to tell the co-captain to tell the lieutenant who told the sergeant of arms to let me know you're not making practice. I says, I want to know. I says, no big deal. I said, but I want to know, and I want to know why. As far as a bad attitude, that goes back, I think, to the psychology. I've said this many times. Leave your attitude at the gate, pick up your racket, and let's play some tennis. If it's a bad attitude because something has triggered it, well, then let's talk. Let's talk about it, Again, do you have any daughters? I know you have a son.
I have a daughter, yeah.
Okay, so God bless you. So
I try to do my best, my friend.
I understand.
The emotions are around.
Right. So having 3 daughters, I've had a lot of discussions with my daughters, and I think I've done a pretty good job raising them. I think I can handle just about any situation between, again, 40 years of teaching in high school. That I'll deal with that attitude for the most part. Let's figure out why it is coming in, this point. I have to say I've been blessed.
Have you ever had to throw anybody off the team? Did you ever have a situation where you're like, this just can't work? And obviously, we're not going to mention any names. And by the way, I want to correct myself. My son's very emotional, too. It's not a sexist thing. He's very emotional as well. But we deal with both. But go ahead.
In all the years that I've coached, I have to say, no, we've never thrown anyone off the team. I will tell you that, we've had experiences where I was, let's say, personally assigned to such and such a player to make sure that they behaved. and I'm sure if that player ever sees this, he's going to say, I know Mr. T's talking about me.
You're like a babysitter.
Right. And he was a tremendous player, and he's a tremendous young man right now. And he's just a great human being. He's going to go very far in life. And, we had a great time together, me and him.
Just needed a little help along the way. Oh, man. How do you, what was my, oh, my God, I had my question there. I just had it on my mind, and I just forgot it, Santi. But, seniors. Yeah, we're talking about senior. I was talking about seniors thinking in my head. How do you deal with a senior, that's a good kid, that's not going to really start? Do you try to get him into some matches? How do you handle that situation? Good kid and is just not as good as the freshman right now, but has been a loyal player for you.
And actually, I'm not dealing with that right now, but I have dealt with that in the past. And first of all, I'll tell you, usually if he is that kid and with a good attitude, and he sees it, he would be the one, when we have this discussion with him, he'd be the one to say to me, listen, I know Ralph is a better player. You don't have to tell me, Coach, and I know he's going to help the team win. But if I can practice with the team, which is important. Usually with 7 players on the starting lineup, if we have an 8th player, which we usually do carry for sure, it definitely balances out when let's say, okay, everybody's going to play a 10-point tiebreaker, so match up. And then, obviously we have an even number. We might bring that senior over with another, let's say even junior who's playing JV and let them play against the second doubles, while the first doubles might play the 1 and 2 singles. I mean, there's all kinds of combinations. Try and keep them involved. Don't want to be discouraged. And yes, we haven't, especially this year, I have like 23, 24 matches. There are enough matches that I will get him in, definitely into the lineup to play, a number of those varsity matches. But it's still, he knows that it won't be the county tournament and it wouldn't be the state tournament. Those are always going to be my best 7 players, no matter what.
But I told plenty of those kids who are on the edges, they say, you never know what can happen. Somebody may get injured. Somebody you're not hoping for, but something may happen. Somebody may have a conflict, and you can get in there and play 3 varsity matches. And then you can say, that's great. As a senior, I got to play some varsity matches. I think kids put themselves in a box too much and think, well, this is what's going to happen. And I know it. There's just so many scenarios that you have no idea what will happen. You just put yourself out there to be able to have the chance to play. When's the first match, Coach?
Next Friday. We have 4 scrimmages next week, every day. We're home Thursday against Della Barton scrimmage, which will be a good one. Tuesday we're away at Chatham, which will be another good one. I mean, they're all going to be good scrimmages. And then Friday we open up against Elizabeth, which should be a good match.
How do you deal with, a couple other questions from me, how do you deal with, one, both sides? Bad calls on that side, and say one of your players is not showing the greatest sportsmanship, making a couple bad calls. How do you handle that situation? That's always a tough one.
Well, if it's usually what you're saying is it's in a competitive match.
Correct.
Okay, so we're saying somebody's going to win this match. Maybe 2 out of 3, or 2 out of 3 sets, and it might be 6-4, 7-5, 6-4. So you're really not going to see bad calls on a 6-0 set. If
Correct.
there is,
what's the point?
one way or the other.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, I wouldn't. Let's not even discuss this. But if it's, let's say they're playing a competitive match, and they come to the fence during a changeover. Coach, listen, two close calls, and they're both, and this happens. They were both at 40-30, and all of a sudden, and a lot of it can be too is that, hey, I'm not supposed to lose to him.
That's that tough pressure.
He is a 6.5. I'm a 7.3. Even though this is a high school match, I can't lose to this kid. So 40-30, ball's close to the line, out. The call's made. Okay, I usually would say to my player, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt on the first call. The second call, at the changeover, just say, listen, I think there's 2 close calls. If it happens again, I'm calling my coach, and we're going to have lines judges for the rest of the match. And I would tell my player, don't wait till it's 5-4 and then decide, I think we're getting some bad calls here.
Yeah.
If it's my player, I might even, coach may still say something to me because I would talk in between. But if that call is made and, technically you're not allowed to say anything, I would say something right away to listen. Charlie, I have it, Charlie. Bob, the ball was in. You got to play that ball. It's on the line. It's in. Do me a favor. Just tell that player you're going to reverse your call.
That's nice.
And we go from there. I think that usually puts the end of it. And you can kind of tell, even in preseason, if you have somebody like that just seems to be playing balls that are close to the line out, for their advantage. And I don't have anyone, so it's luckily I don't have to worry about that right now. But, there are other teams that we've played. I've seen that, and it's usually, especially with this UTR, I dealt with my own daughters with rankings back when USTA.
Yeah.
And if you didn't win
4-star, 3-star, all that stuff.
and if you didn't win that next match, you weren't invited to zonals, and then the zonals got to go to national. So
it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
I know this UTR has become, and again, we've talked about this 1,000 times, but we always bring it up. It's become a great thing, but it's become also, oh my God, everybody's worried about the other kids' UTR. Just worry about your UTR, your own, and just play. They're always worried about playing a UTR too low, and no one wants to play that person because if they lose to that person, the UTR goes down. And it's just crazy. No one wants to. And we talked about this. UTR is great, but you should be able to only see your own UTR. You can't see anybody else's, and that way you just say, all right, my UTR is a 5. I'd like to get to a 7. You don't know anybody else's UTR because we didn't know any. When we were kids, there was no internet. I couldn't see someone's ranking or UTR. I had no result history of them. I was like, oh, who's this kid? Oh, he seems tall. Okay, I got to play him. It was not, is he lefty? I top 5 minutes. You find where he's okay, he's lefty. Or he's got a spin. He's got this. You don't have any reports on anything. They should just go out there and play. It's just too much analysis. It creates all this stress for these kids. Speaking of matches, you have one. You have Coach Ian as an assistant. How do you watch? You usually you got a basketball game. You can watch the game. You got 5 different matches going on. How do you divide your time? What do you guys say? Do you spend 5-10 minutes on each thing? How are you able to coach moving from court to court? How's the best way to do it?
I think that's where psychology comes in, and I had a lot of good mentors that I've watched. Bob McNutt was one who was a varsity coach there for many years. Also coached my daughter, but he would be one. Let's say if it was again, let's just take my daughter. My daughter's up like 5-0, and it's a changeover. I'm going, Bob, aren't you gonna? Of course, concerned about my own daughter.
Yeah.
Bob, aren't you gonna go say something to her? He goes, what would you like me to say to him? he says she's winning 5-0. It's not 6-4. It's not 7-5. She's up 5-0. Just let's let her be, So, again, there's certain players, as you know, they need somebody to talk to them. They'd like somebody to talk to them in between.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just to tell them a joke. Sometimes it's tell them, hey, Lisa, your hair really looks good today. It could be something simple. But there's other players that, they need to be reminded. Okay, remember, we're not trying to pull this player out on angles. We're going to try and go at this player because this player likes angles, and he'll kill you if you keep giving those angles.
Yeah.
Hit the ball right at him hard. It's going to be different for him to make that that next shot. So things like that, you pick and choose who you think you should talk to, and a lot of it is based on what the score of that set is at the time.
Do you find that the more supportive the teammates are? I know it's hard when you're playing somebody that's just a better level. Is the camaraderie really affect the results in tennis? Because they say, in a team sport more so, does it really help? In a sport that's a team sport, but kind of an individual sport too. Does it really help if the team likes each other?
Yeah, I think so. I think before and after matches for sure. Obviously, when the match is going on, I don't think second doubles is going to be. I'm sure they like to hear it if the first singles yells out, "Let's go second double" or "Way to play." But as you know, as he usually yells out, the third singles is tossing up a serve. So it's kind of like, and then of course, coaches look at me going, "Your first singles is yelling out a quote." I'm going, "All right, calm down, everybody. We'll make it work."
They're
So
into it.
yeah, so the more you try, I like that because that's those sports I played. But it was like, okay, we got to keep it in relationship, especially if you ever have to go indoors because you know the echo and everything like that. It could get annoying.
How strategy wise, not even strategy, but research wise, do you have time to look at other teams and see how they play? Do you go on UTR? Do you have ability to say, all right, this team, or do the kids know more because they know all these players all over the place? How do you prepare for certain teams? How do you do research?
Yeah, I think what you just said before. Most of the teams we play in Union County, if they're UTR or tournament players, our kids have played them.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a disadvantage because at any given point outside, things could change. And I know. You get a cold, windy day, that number one player may not be the same player as he is where she is when she goes indoors because she's now got to deal with the wind. I mean,
Elements, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a little bit. I'm gonna say I would say revealing, but it's a little bit, I think, difficult for a player to know that this kid's a 7.5 and I'm a 6.1. I can't.
That's why they should know. That's why we're talking about. Just go out there and play. It would be a lot better not to even know who the person is. It just creates too much pressure and stress. I totally agree. I got a ton of information for you today. It was great. And the parents will be helpful. All these questions are very helpful for them because they really are interested in how does my kid make a team? What's the process? How many chances do they have? Say a kid, this is a great question. Say a kid is on the cusp of JV and varsity. How many chances does he get to make it to that next level? If they lose to the bottom varsity player, do they get the same thing? They get 2 chances at them or 1 or what's that process of, I'm sure a bunch of kids want to go from JV to varsity.
Okay, so the young lady who just graduated last year, again, I'm not going to mention names.
Sure.
But she actually got onto the varsity lineup maybe a third into the season. She was playing stellar JV tennis. JV coach says, hey, you really got to take a look at so-and-so and watch her play. I'm watching her play. I'm going. And she was under the weather, bad cold and everything. This is going back a couple of years, when she tried out. So she didn't win her challenge match, But I'm watching her play. I says, I got to bring her up and let her play a little bit the doubles and see what she does. And she ended up making the varsity lineup, I'm going to say less than halfway through the season, maybe a third into the season, and ended up playing 4 years of varsity ball. So,
Awesome.
I look at that all the time. And, coaching, which is, again, really nice having the 8 courts, the JV and varsity practice together.
Yeah.
So if I see you're kind of slacking off a little bit or maybe you're not putting enough effort into it, I could send a message real quick to you and say, listen, you're going to be so-and-so's partner on court 8 and send Joey over because he's now going to move into that. And it's kind of like,
it's the Hunger Games.
I'm going over there, over there, like as if like, no, you're just going over to court 8. You're not going over there, So,
That's great. No, it's great. Keeps them honest, keeps them working hard. You got to give them a little bit of, you got to give them a little bit of pressure, right? It can't be, you want them to feel comfortable to be able to feel like succeed, but you don't want them so relaxed that they're not working hard anymore. There's that fine line. You still have to work hard and say, okay, I have to keep earning my spot and I need to be dedicated.
Yep, that's exactly. I want you to earn your spot every day. You come out and play. Just give me 100% effort. Everybody has a bad day. Every shot's not going to go in, and some days every shot's going to go in. But you got to show me that effort. You can't just walk, and you got to show me no attitude.
Yeah.
We don't want to deal with that.
I totally agree. And we have the 2 signs on our wall, attitude and effort, good attitude. So you can't control results. You only can control those 2 things. Good attitude, solid effort. If you lose, that's okay. We've told the kids how bad the result is if they win and their attitude's terrible. It doesn't work. It's awful. You can't have a bad attitude, walk around, be disrespectful, and expect the result says everything. And that's it. I won the match. Who cares how I behave? You have to behave. Coach, we're running up on time. Boy, it flies. It's awesome. But you taking this job, being a coach, what's the most rewarding thing? 2 things. What's most rewarding, and what do you want to see? What is success for you as a kid, teaching a kid? Not the results. I mean, what are those 2 things? What's most rewarding, and what do you want to see these kids be able to do?
Most rewarding. First of all, I have a place to go every day at 3:00 that I love, and I don't care. I've said that again to my own kids. I've said it to the kids I teach. If you love what you do, I know it's the old coffee cup cliche, but I really do. I love what I do. I love when I taught at Scotch Plains. I love when I'm doing this. I love being at Kane University, what I'm doing now. So that's number one. But the second part is somebody like, and I can use her name here because she'll know exactly what I'm saying. Somebody like a Maggie DeFabio, who played number 1 for me for 4 years. She wasn't the state champion. Knows that she was never going to beat it. Maybe in lacrosse she is, but not in tennis. But she would come off the court sometimes, maybe winning a set, but then losing 2 sets, 6-2 or 6-3 or whatever, and tell me something like, Coach, I had a great time today. Like, to myself and say, yeah, you lost and you had a great time. Yeah, I had a great time today. This was just tremendous. Like, and you think like other kids are crying their eyes out, making a literal.
No.
But because
I've cried before at a match, Coach.
Because are banging a racket because they lost 6-4, 7-5 to a state champion. Here she's playing a state champion, but that was her. That was my reward for her, watching her play. I mean, and she was one that really same thing. Like even when she was winning, if I went over, she'd come out, look at me, and go like, Coach, what are you doing here? I just seen how you're doing. I'm doing good. I'm up 3-2. So it was that attitude. She had that mental toughness too. But stuff like that, to me is just so rewarding. I mean, it's nice to win. Don't you know that?
Oh, of course, yeah. But Maggie has played here in unbelievable character. You want to tell? She's going to the Naval Academy next year. Just unbelievable character, total work ethic, super hard worker. Like the epitome of like, I can't even. It's you don't want to put too much pressure. It's almost like the perfect kid. Like she works hard. She's I'm cooking my own meals. I'm cooking like she does everything. She's just an incredible hard worker, tenacity. Must have been great to coach for 4 years. It's just a joy. What are you doing at Kane, by the way? I don't even know.
Director of jazz studies.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the music part.
Sante and I were talking about.
What instruments did you play?
Saxophone.
Look at this. Yeah. We should do this whole cast on sax. I played the piano for a while, but not very good. But look at you. Look at this guy. He's just a jack of all trades. Coach, it was great. I mean, it was, we did almost 45 minutes already. But
that's fine by pleasure.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Good luck during the season. Hopefully we'll do it at the end of the year. I can't believe, but one more question. I can't believe the tournament champions is the last year. What's your opinion on that? Come on. Come on.
I think it's just going back to that, you see it filtering on down. My grandson just won the basketball tournament in Long Island, and, he's young. He's, 10 and under division or whatever. And, I said, so what was the score? I don't know. I don't think we kept score.
Oh, my gosh. This is
well,
getting so bad,
Well,
Coach.
if you won, how come everybody got trophies? It goes, oh, I don't know, Pop. Everybody got trophies. It was, and so I just think it's one of those, we just don't,
So they want everyone just to win their section or play as many matches and not have to deal with one winner and feel like...
I guess, yeah.
If nobody knows, the tournament champions, the top 8 go down to Mercer?
Yeah, and maybe they're starting to see also that, you just said before, if there's a recruiting element or for some reason, I want my kid to go to... Newark Academy, because that's where the best tennis players are.
Sure.
So I'll pay whatever it takes for him or her to go there. Okay, well, but Summit's got a great high school and a great program. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying? Like every player at Newark Academy is stellar. So you might have 2 or 3 really good ones, but your other 3 or 4 are just above average home or whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. Relative. You sure? No, it's no big deal.
So the point is. And then I also think, people do think that you're going to get a better education. I don't agree with it. I mean, I've had kids go to Princeton from Summit High School.
Yeah.
And they played tennis.
No, Eric Herman worked here. He played. He played tennis at Summit. Went to Princeton, and not for tennis, but I went to Stanford. I'm sorry, went to Stanford. Sorry, I'm getting all confused. Yeah, Alex McDowell went to Princeton. Yes, Brendan's playing here. He's taking a gap year going to Bucknell. The McDonald's are great kids. But what I mean is the tournament of champions was. The top 8 in the 8 sectional champions
every state champion plus then parochial and.
So is that 8? How many is it down? 8 or 16? How many go down? I don't even know.
8, I think 4.
8 go down.
High school, 4 groups.
So the reason is they don't. To me, like again, everybody gets a trophy. You just want the 8 section winners, and that's it. They don't want anybody.
8 state winners.
8 state winners. They don't feel like anybody loses that.
Right.
Santi, what's going on with society? That's okay. There can be one winner at the end. We're soft, but. Coach, we're soft, but we love it. All right, great, awesome.
Got it. Stay well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you. Take care. Share the podcast. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Hope you like the podcast. Please share it with your friends. Anybody that you know, anybody that's into tennis, anybody that's into bettering themselves, share it.